Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Nick Gray, and this here is the all-new OnePlus Nord N10. Now, by now, we're all familiar with the premium OnePlus devices that undercut the competition when it comes to price while still maintaining exceptional build quality and even outclassing the competition when it comes to performance and the software experience. But in 2020, OnePlus changed things up significantly with the introduction of the Nord sub-brand to perform better in the mid-range and also the budget segment of the smartphone market. Now, as we all know, when you start selling devices that cost less than half as much of the devices that you're typically known for, some compromises are going to need to be made, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, the pros and cons of the OnePlus Nord N10. But before we get to that, let me tell you about Trend Micro Premium Security Suite, the sponsor for this video. In this day and age, there's a good chance that you're already using a password manager or even a VPN to keep your online data and activity secure. But that still leaves you and your personal information vulnerable to other kinds of attacks. The new Trend Micro Premium Security Suite delivers a comprehensive security package, which includes a VPN, password manager, personal identity monitoring, virus and ransomware protection, and parental controls, all with 24/7 live customer support, giving you a more comprehensive defense against online attacks while also saving you a bit of money. My favorite so far is the personal identity monitoring that researches data breaches from credit card companies, retailers, and any of your online accounts, and then notifies you if any of your personal information was included in any of the data leaks. In my case, it informed me that actually 3 of my accounts had been compromised, and I was able to quickly resolve those issues by changing my passwords and then storing the new details in the Trend Micro Password Manager. While the Trend Micro Premium Security Suite usually goes for $130 for a 12-month subscription, it's currently on sale for $69.95. But as a thank you to our viewers, they're also throwing in an additional 10% discount if you use the promo code Phandroid10 at checkout. Be sure to check out the video description below for the link, promo code, and additional details about the Trend Micro Premium Security Suite. Now, before we get to the phone's pros and cons, I'd like to set the stage with the phone's price to put everything that we're going to be talking about into context. Over in Europe, this phone is going to be selling for €349 or 329 pounds in the UK. OnePlus has also announced that it is coming to the US market. They just haven't said when yet or what the price is going to be, but it should fall between the $350 and $400 price point, which would make it a good competitor to Google's Pixel 4a that launched earlier this year. As far as the first pros go, I'm going to start things off with performance here. And this phone is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 690 chipset with 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, typically I say 6 gigabytes of RAM is the minimum that you would want to go with if you want a device with decent performance. And this phone here certainly delivers on that. If you go with 4 gigabytes of RAM or lower than that, you're going to suffer on multitasking and the phone's going to lag and hang up a little bit more than you should expect to see if you want something that has a smooth experience. But that Snapdragon 690 may not be the quickest chipset around. We've seen a lot of devices this year with the Snapdragon 765 chipset with 5G, but this one here also has 5G, so that's one thing to keep in mind. There are other devices with the Snapdragon 680s that don't have 5G connectivity, in case that's important for you. Another pro here is that you get 128 gigabytes of storage on the inside, plus a micro SD card slot, something that we typically don't see on other devices from OnePlus. Now, you might think you don't have the option to upgrade all the way to 256 gigabytes of storage with onboard storage here, but you can always just pop in another memory card and get a memory card up to 1 terabyte these days. And honestly, they're really not that expensive. If you're taking a lot of photos or have a lot of videos or music that you listen to, you can definitely load this up with as much media as you want without having to worry about running out of internal storage there. Another pro is the phone's display. Now, this is a step back from other OnePlus devices. What you're looking at here is an LCD panel versus an AMOLED panel that you get on other OnePlus devices. This also means that the bezels around the display are a little bit thicker, especially here at the bottom. And the cutout for the front-facing camera is a little bit larger than what you would see on previous OnePlus devices. That being said, it is a full HD plus resolution panel, and you also get a 90 Hz refresh rate. And at this price point, there are only a handful of devices that offer 90 Hz displays or a little bit quicker than that. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. If you want a great visual experience, the OnePlus Nord N10 certainly delivers on that. As far as other pros, you get stereo speakers here as well, one on the bottom and one right above the display with pretty decent audio. And since this is a budget-friendly device, that also means you get a 3.5mm headphone jack. I honestly don't know who thought up the idea of a budget-friendly device gets all of these extra features which make a phone better than not having a headphone jack and not having stereo speakers, but it's really nice to see, even at this price point, you're getting a great value for the hardware that you're getting. As far as battery life goes, this phone delivers on that as well, with the Snapdragon 690 being extremely efficient and having a battery cell that's over 4,000 milliamps on the inside. This phone lasts 2 days without even breaking a sweat. And because it also has Warp Charge 30, that means this phone charges faster, much faster than most other budget-friendly devices. Switching over to the phone's cons, I'm going to start things off with its build and its design. As you can see, the back of the phone doesn't look too bad, especially for a mid-range device in 2020. We've seen some pretty bad looking smartphones this year within the budget and the mid-range segment, but this one looks pretty good. But if you happen to cover up the OnePlus logo on the back of the phone, you might mistake this for a Samsung device, especially their A-series Galaxy smartphones that cost between $250 and $400, and that's exactly where this phone is selling. The reason OnePlus did this was simply because Samsung's devices within that segment are extremely popular, so might as well be mistaken for a Samsung device this year. As far as the fit and the finish goes, this is definitely a step back when compared to other OnePlus devices that we've seen. It is a plastic back panel and also plastic frame along the edges, which make it feel substantially cheaper than other OnePlus devices. It would have been nice if they would have maintained a glass panel on the back, especially since that helps with scratch resistance. I've only used this for a couple of days now, and if you take a closer look at the back of the phone, you can already notice a couple of hairline scratches along the plastic back. The second item on my con list for the OnePlus Nord N10 has to be its quad camera setup on the back. Now, while having 4 cameras may sound good on paper, the only cameras that are actually usable are the 64 megapixel main sensor and the ultra-wide camera on the back of the phone. The remaining 2 sensors, the monochrome and macro cameras, are really just throwaway lenses so that OnePlus can say they have a quad camera setup. I honestly don't understand why manufacturers keep doing this over and over again. They simply give us specs for specs' sake rather than trying to solve a problem with those. Google proved earlier this summer that the Pixel 4a with its single 12 megapixel sensor can take outstanding photos in any lighting conditions. Case in point, the 64 megapixel main sensor on the back of this phone to some is going to sound like it's an upgrade over the 48 megapixel sensor that OnePlus used on the OnePlus Nord and even the one used on the OnePlus 8. But when you look at the results, that's definitely not the case. In my book, they should have foregone using the monochrome sensor on the back of this phone and also the macro camera, just to save $2, maybe $3 to invest in that same 48 megapixel sensor and made this a much better device. The last 2 cons on my list have to do with the phone's fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone and the vibration motor. Now, if you've used a OnePlus device in the past, you know how good the haptic feedback is on those devices. OnePlus even did a great job with the OnePlus Nord earlier this year, even though it's a much cheaper device. But this device here at €350 feels, when you use the vibration motor, like it's a €200 device. OnePlus could have upgraded and spent $1 more in order to get the vibration motor to feel just a little bit better. It really goes a long ways in determining how the phone feels in day-to-day use. As far as the fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone, I really don't have an issue with the capacitive fingerprint sensor and the placement of it, but more of the fact of the quality of the sensor itself. I've been using the phone for 3 to 4 days now, and honestly, it's missed unlocking the phone more than it should, considering that I have a lot of other devices with rear-mounted fingerprint sensors that seem to get it 99% of the time. I'm probably sitting at about 75 to 80% of the time with this, and I've even scanned the same finger in multiple times in order to speed it up and improve the accuracy of it. And that's going to do it for my pros and cons list for the OnePlus Nord N10. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you think this phone is worthy of the OnePlus Nord name, and if you'd rather buy this device over something like the Pixel 4a or other mid-range devices that are on the market this year. I do have a full review of this device coming up, along with camera samples and camera comparisons against some of its best competitors that within the budget segment, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon as well if you want a notification as soon as those are online. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.